All right, everybody, welcome back to Cashflow Chronicles. Hopefully, you guys can hear me today, February 28th, 2024. Kris has dropped a bombshell on me. I'll let him tell you guys if he wants to talk about it. He just dropped that on me, and I said, are we going live for this, or are we keeping it private? NVIDIA, 774, pulling back a little bit. Dutch Bros, I'm surprised it was 29 bucks. I think I might have messed that one up. Apple, 181. SPY, still at 506. Palantir, hanging around 24 bucks. Google still pulling back a little bit. Amazon 172. The big news of today, Bitcoin, we're not going to drop into that one too much, but it hovered up close to 64,000. Surprising. Natural gas recovering a little bit from $1.60 or so yesterday to $1.80. So overall, Matty Capital is in good hands. I started telling people, watch your mouth at work. Bitcoin's up, but tomorrow is D-Day. I will not be live streaming. I wish I could. I have some obligations at work early, 7 a.m. my time, but 10 p.m. Eastern is when the call goes forward. But Kris might have cracked an egg for us. I'm going to hand it over to him. Kris Patel, how are you doing today, sir?
Supposedly, tomorrow's Celsius earnings have leaked. And if that is true, the market has already started to buy it up in the after hours. Let me just look at it where it's at right now. It is currently at $3.30, so it's up about 5% overnight. It's at $71 right now. Once again, I don't know how accurate this is, but it looks legit. So if it is legit, the numbers are pretty damn good. So yeah.
Well, let's hope it stays at 71, because if it's I sold at 75 for April, knowing that I didn't think it was going to go past 80 bucks. I think it would have been like, I would have been dumb if it like went through 80, but the thought was, I was like, it might land at 75. So that would basically mean that those options expire pretty much worthless, and I'd be able to capture that $4 premium that I sold it for. But so that's my hope. If it stays at 71, man, I'm buying those things back, and shit, I don't know what I'd write after that, something in May or something like that. But so far so good.
I mean, there seems to be a lot of people quote tweeting this. I don't know. Let's see if that website is actually working. Hold on. Celsius Holdings report. No, there's no way. Page excerpt. Record fourth quarter of 347 million, up 95% year over year. Yeah. Record full year to 1.3 billion. Yeah, we know that. Up 102%. Yeah, that wasn't that unexpected. I don't know, man. I just, yeah, I don't know.
It seems a little off.
It does seem off. It does seem off.
Well, the thing that gets me a little eerie is like that typing right there, the Celsius Holdings report. It says results February 28th. The results are not supposed to come out till tomorrow, so it should say results.
It says February 29th. It does say,
but 29th. No, but in the white text up top, and that's the same writing that they basically stated on the website as well.
Yeah, I wonder if this is like just some sort of. I mean, if is it confirmed? You would think that
it's. Somebody said it was supposedly leaked by Reuters. Hold on, let me see. Reuters Celsius. Let's see. And then this is getting me fired up. I feel like an investigative journalist. Let's
see. No,
I'm not seeing anything in the past hour. What about past 24? Yeah, I'm not seeing anything. Kris is so hyped up that he closed his browser again. Mr. Patel, will your yacht be bigger than McGregor's? We'll ask him when he gets back.
Yeah.
Mr. Patel, welcome back.
Let me see, man. I'm not finding it either.
I'm not seeing anything either. Yeah.
At least there's nothing official. I don't think there's any.
Well, let's do a comparison. This is what Yahoo Finance stated. So Yahoo Finance said they are, based off the analysts, expecting revenue to grow 86% year on year to 331. improving 70% year over year, that they increased in the same quarter last year. So that's a speeding up. And what did you say that their revenue was? I think it was in the 330s, I think, if I remember correctly. From that speed.
370 something.
370? There's no way. 90, and that was like a 90 something percent year on year.
Yeah.
That would just be insanity.
I mean, it's not insanity if you think about like the
But on the
number of
sequential
people.
quarter, what would that be, Chris? Would that be a growth or would that be a flattening
No,
from
that's still
Q3?
that. Let me see. Hold on one second.
Because that's what we were specifically for your Patreon due diligence. You were kind of like, where are we going to be, right? And that's kind of what I'm curious now. It's like I feel like if you're getting to the 360 number, that's
okay. So let's
up.
look. So revenue last quarter was 384.
384.
So if they're doing 347, it's up 95%, but it's down quarter over quarter. But that's once again because of seasonality, right? That was the main driver of that report by B of A, which is, oh, look, their growth is slowing. But it's like, no, it's just there's a natural slowdown during the winter months because there's a lot less consumption of cold beverages, So that, and then on top of it, you don't necessarily have like the numbers from the Canada and UK and Ireland expansion working their way in until next year.
Yeah, that's
So
first quarter. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm crying at this comment, dude. Like because you accidentally exited yourself out of the stream. Chris just retired midstream. That's the best comment I think I've ever seen.
So we'll see what happens tomorrow, but I mean it looks good. My biggest thing is like, what are they going to guide for next year? This plays right into
I want it to be good. I don't want it to be that good. Although if it's gonna be good, just go balls out so we can get all of our income and earnings.
Okay, so it was 347, not 374. Sorry, 347.
Oh, so it would be an increase if got it. Perfect. Well, that's interesting to see. Yeah, I will literally, when earnings come out, I think I will be literally in a conference for 90 minutes and I can't look at my phone during that time. So unfortunately the market's going to open without me being able to see it because it's going to open before market, or the earnings are going to come out before market. So really excited about what it could be.
So this is the major draw to Celsius right now, which is their top line growth. If you look at their revenue growth, it's gone from 300 million to 600, and now it's going to be like, and this is 12 months trailing, right?
Yeah,
so that's going to be
TTM, yeah.
This is going to be 1.3. So my best guess on what it could be closer to like maybe 70% of in 20, like my guess was 70% in 2024. So if you think about it, it's probably going to be 1.3 times 1.7, which ends up being about 2.2 billion in revenue, and then multiply that against by, let's say, 1.4 for the year after. So they easily can get to $3 billion by 2026, right? So price to sales right now is usually, like, for let's say Monsters, at an 8. And these guys, because of their faster growth rate, deserve probably like 11. But let's just say give them a Monster like price to sales. That ends up being about 8. So that's about 24 billion. So 24 billion divided by, it's over $100 by 2026. Easy. That's the math that comes to mind. And that's me being conservative. They could keep their growth rate relatively high for a longer period. But I think they're in a secular growth trend right now. So yeah.
It's not slowing down, man. And I think they got legs. And the reason why I say I think they have legs is, I don't think I shared this with you yet. I shared it in the Discord, but the Celsius Heat, I've been drinking it the past 2 days. They advise only to drink 1 can, because it is literally 300 milligrams of caffeine. But I'm not like shaking like a crazy ma. I don't have like I don't feel like it's absurdly caffeinated. Sorry, I feel like it's appropriately caffeinated. I feel good. I don't feel like I just chugged a Monster Energy drink and I'm full of carbonation or anything like that. Not burping up a storm. So it kind of feels like just a slightly, I guess, powered normal Celsius. The problem is, I think, is that you don't. I'm not seeing them in the stores at the moment. You can get them from Amazon. Not all of them are next day delivery, like a lot of the normal flavors. But I'm curious to see how that takes off. When I first started looking, there was 3 flavors. Now there are 5 flavors on there. I got the jackfruit. It's not my favorite flavor that I've had, but it's not awful. Kind of tastes like a toned down monster, if you ask me. But I've seen a lot of the reviews. The cherry limeade apparently is going flying off the shelves, and there was another one that people really liked as well, and I forget what it is. But so far, that's been something that I'm gonna keep trying to buy, and I'm gonna try the cherry limeade next, I think. But so far, so good on those. I guess the thing I would just advise is I don't I normally try to drink like a couple cups of coffee a day, and I midday after lunch, I was like, I don't even feel like I'm dragging, which is
Yeah, a lot of
surprising.
people
Normally I
a
go
lot of
grab one.
people that's the anecdote that I'm hearing. A lot of people are substituting coffee for Celsius, which is a good sign for Celsius's future growth. I had a Celsius last night, and dude, throughout the day today, I could not sleep. I ended up crashing at 1:30, and then I just woke up, and my wife was like, "Oh, how'd you sleep?" I said, "I slept great because I was drained of all my excess energy." Um, I may have to like cut back and just do like half a can. Otherwise, like
Really?
I'll never sleep right. Yeah.
Are
You
you
know,
that prone to like caffeine? Because I feel like
I mean,
I
I was up, man. I'm like this morning I was on it, you know.
mm,
No, it definitely does boost the crap out of your like energy levels, you know. So like I also think that there's like a focus as well. That like I get a lot of mental acuity and focus when I'm drinking a Celsius. I don't know if like that's one of the side effects or whatever, but it does work, you know.
mm. Um, so speaking of things that are mooning, although Celsius has done a phenomenal job, up what is it, like 30% or even maybe even more over the past. Let me just do it. Over the past month, Celsius is up 36%. So up $70, up to 70.55 after hours, still up 4%. So looks like whatever that release was, either people are still hyped up or was real. So we guess we'll find out tomorrow. Another thing that is up, and I know I don't want to belabor it too much because I know you talked about it probably to an excess on Finance Junkies. Bitcoin's also up 45%. When, if ever, can I convince you to buy into cryptocurrencies?
It's not my thing, man. Like it just I would be the weakest paper-handed person in the world. If I don't have conviction in something, like
I feel
I
that.
I'd end up like my finger would get too itchy on selling. You know what I mean? So if I don't have personal conviction, if I don't do the DD on it, if I don't like really sit there and do the math, it doesn't work. And the thing is, Bitcoin isn't driven by a business. It's driven by speculation. So it's hard for me to go into that zone. And like I said, every 5% or 10% dip, I'd be like, oh no, I need to sell. You know, so I'd rather just invest in things that I know, invest in asset classes that I know, use some logic behind my investing and just go with that, you know.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting. Um, well, I know you pumped a few, not pump, that's the wrong terminology to use,
Hmm.
but you started chatting about a few other things on La Patreon, and I'm curious if there's any other final thoughts that you wanted to close out. I know that we closed today with BPYPM, a few hundred, or not a few hundred shares, a few hundred or more dollars personally in our public portfolio. Um, Trying to think, Celsius was up in our public portfolio, so it didn't really change all too much from yesterday. So it's not really worth sharing again. But I'm kind of curious if there was any other large positions that you had that either changed up too much for me, I've just been so excited because I do have a decent crypto portfolio that it's up, 10% today. I was kind of jittery and excited about that, but I know you're not the biggest enthusiast
So
of that.
I have some Palo Alto network stock options that
Yeah,
I may sell and just buy stock because I think the value really is in the stock. I mean, I like the options. There's still value there, but I think a lot of the early winning on that has already been kind of like done. So my thing is, why not take some of it, half of it? I'm considering taking half and putting it into Snowflake tomorrow, but we'll see. I'm not gonna like go in blind. I have some DD that I need to do tonight. Snowflake
hmm
took a big dive today, off the back of Frank Slootman announcing that he's resigning as CEO. So yeah, there's a lot of DD that have to do on that because it could be a good recovery place, very similar to what happened to Palo Alto, where the market irrationally sold it off and then did a quick recovery, right? Once the market and people really digested the news. So, but like I said, it's something that I still have to do due diligence on, go through all the data points, and then after that, I can really distill it down and then come up with some good price targets where it would actually make some sense, you know.
for sure.
But with Palo Alto, I it's a great company. Long term, these guys are going to be absolutely fine. There is probably going to be a few quarters of weakness, but that's according to their guidance. They really put out a lot of detail on the transformative business model that they're utilizing in order to make long-term gains, but they are going to sustain some short-term pain. Um, Nancy Pelosi bought a whole bunch of calls on Palo Alto in the money, so that was also very interesting. Her break even is like 356 now. So, just do with that
356.
with what you yeah.
Interesting.
Well,
Because she
what
bought
happened?
it. She bought it on Friday, right? So then they got announced on Friday, and then Monday morning is when it went apeshit, or was it Monday morning that she bought? I forget.
No, so she bought 50 call contracts for a $200 strike. So she bought
Yeah,
deep in the
in the
money
money.
call
Yeah,
contracts. And the reason why she bought deep in the money calls is because when you have a lot of when you do options, you'll see that towards earnings, you'll get a lot of IV crush. So it's never a good idea to buy near the money when you're buying options. And she has them for January 2025. So she bought way out of the money calls. Yeah, right there. So she bought way out of the money calls when it was trading in at 385. So when Palo Alto took a dump and went down to like the 170s, she bought $20, 20 calls at the same strike, same thing, but by then they had repriced much lower. So her average cost right now is I did it like 156. So if you think about it, she's not that far off from breaking even right now, even though she had a really like disastrous position.
356. I mean, yeah. And the thing that's when you buy these deep in the
Yeah.
monies, the delta, which basically means how much the option is going to change for every dollar movement, is almost 1 to 1, right? So even though she bought $200 kind of calls here, it's like for every dollar that it goes up, she's getting 90 cents. And you have to think she's able to buy way more contracts because she's able to buy almost 3 times as much uh, for basically the same price movement because otherwise, she'd be buying on the open market at 300, 290, and here she is able to buy it at $133 per share. So it allows her, which obviously this is elevated. So I'm sure it was closer to 110 or something like that before the recent move up because it did go up about 20, 30
I, I
bucks
broke
over the past few days.
I broke it down on how much would her based on the averages for the day. So when she bought her original position, Celsius was trading at I'm not Celsius, sorry. I'm looking at Celsius. Palo Alto was trading around 370. So when she bought her original $20 calls, I mean not 20, $200
200.
calls, it cost her $185 per contract. So the break even would have been 385,
Yeah.
right? So now when Palo Alto took a dump, she bought that same contract, but she bought 20 more for $83.
It was
And right
83.
now,
Wow.
yeah, so she bought them for 83. So now it's climbed all the way back up to 131. So like I said, her break even went down significantly. You know?
Yeah. So it just goes to show people, what, like for me, the reason why I bought Celsius $50 calls is because I wanted almost a dollar for dollar price movement. And a lot of
Yeah.
people, Chris took the 65s, and I get it. But for me, I was just like, if I'm going to be holding this long term, I want to be writing covered calls, or poor man covered calls this whole time I own the contracts. Now, of course, if we see $85 or something tomorrow, then I'm just going to take my money and run. But that's going to be a different story for a different day. But we'll end up seeing. But there's different ways to kind of play all these options contracts, and there's not one size fits all. So I just recommend that people always kind of just do their due diligence and understand why somebody might be picking a different price target versus another. Are they doing it so they can afford more contracts? Like obviously Kris could have afforded more $65 contracts with the $8,000, $9,000 that I put into it, compared to me only buying the 5 contracts that I did at the $50. So Kris was able to buy a lot more, contracts. And obviously if it goes through the roof, there's going to be some sort of break even point on that. Obviously there's applied volatility costs and, all the other different items that are priced into the option itself that would make it either more or less expensive. But at some point, Kris having way more contracts is going to be more beneficial for him at some point, especially if the stock continues to go through the roof. So
yeah,
very excited to see what happens for not only PANW. Well, you said you're selling out of PANW. You think you already made your money and you're calling it?
no. So with Palo Alto, I've just had such a big run on it that I think right now the value going forward may be on the stock side rather than just the options. I mean,
Okay.
the options are okay too. I'm still deciding right now. It's like
I'm just surprised. I didn't even catch when it dropped, a week or two ago from 360 all the way to 260. I mean, had I known that, I probably would have been like, what the hell is going on here? Done my due diligence.
I caught it.
I had no idea. I was too busy drinking
you're
margaritas
on
in Mexico.
You're on the Patreon, dude.
Yeah, you think I was on KrisPatel.com when I was miles deep in a bunch of cervezas? I wasn't.
That's a good point.
I'm just messing with you, but
yeah.
I wish I did. I saw it come through and I was like, PANW, I haven't heard that name in a long time.
There's a ton of people on the Patreon that they've killed it with Palo Alto, and they've also killed it with Celsius. Like I am happy about the Celsius move. Not for me. I mean, I'm happy about me, but they absolutely fuck it. Like some of these people, some of them are still holding naked unmarried $65 calls. I'm like, hey, bro, you do you, but they're up a lot. So
well, fingers crossed for them. Maybe it goes up to 70. I would love tomorrow, Kris, if it goes to 71, 72.
Yeah, because you sold some covered calls.
Yeah. Huh? I mean, well, I just think at that point, I still think that, yeah, you're right. But even if it goes to like 75, I would just be able to roll it to May for 80 or 90, and I'd still be able to capture it and be able to hold it for the long term. But I'm just feeling it's going to stop at 71, 72, but maybe I'm pleasantly surprised. I wouldn't mind if it goes to $76 or something, because even if it goes to $76, the IV crush on those options that I sold are still probably going to mean it goes down by 50%, and then I can just buy it back and write a different contract for it. Who knows?
Yeah. We'll see, man. Like it'll be definitely going to be a very very interesting day tomorrow, primarily because I'm more concerned about guidance than the numbers. Like I really don't give two shits about the guidance. I mean, I don't give two shits about the numbers. I care more about the guidance, because the guidance is what's really going to drive the stock up or down,
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I think somebody asked, maybe it was on Bootleg Weekly, if I was more bullish on Celsius or on Dutch Bros. I think it's
okay. Who decided that stupid name, by the way? Who did it? Who did that? Bootleg Weekly.
That's not me.
What?
Yeah.
That doesn't that sound stupid? Like
that was I think because they were doing I think it's because they were doing the SoFi weekly stream, and they wanted to have other topics to discuss, but they wanted to keep it at SoFi. So instead, they started a different stream to be able to talk about whatever the hell they wanted. So
Yeah, but bootleg weekly, it doesn't even identify with the, I don't know, whatever, bro. It's just, you would have thought that they try to like put something that it's identifiable into the name, you know?
yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. I'm just a guest, so I
Yeah.
can't object. But maybe it eventually turns into something more official in the longer term. But I think it's in its infancy. I think this was only the fifth one. So good for them that they're
Should just call it
starting
white
another.
people finance. They should call it white people finance. You know? Just to be fair, Tevis invited me to come on, but I'm doing finance junkies, so we can't really, like I
Yeah,
couldn't do
yeah.
it.
He did
But
he did ask.
it's
He was like, we could figure out a time where, Mr.
yeah.
Patel would be able to join us, but we'll
Call
see.
it white people weekly, white
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 people.
finance, white finance,
We'll get
What
we'll
it's
get we'll
it'll
get
be the
burned more than
funniest thing.
than Google at
Nah,
that point.
man, we need to change the narrative. It's okay to be white. Let's get that out there. It's okay to be white. Like there's nothing wrong with being a white person. I don't know why
Uh,
it's sad that people are so fucking scared to congregate together because it's like, oh, we're gonna seem racist. Bro, if someone said I'm proud to be white, I'd be like, great, I'm proud to be Indian. We cool. You know, why is that a problem, man? So,
uh,
but when I see it, I'm just like, damn, there's no color in there. There's no DEI. I guess Bootleg Weekly doesn't have any DEI
no
initiatives,
DEI.
apparently.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, we need to. We'll have to talk to
I'll
Mr.
talk to
Tevis about
Tevis.
that one. Yeah.
I'll message Tevis, be like, you know what? I'm gonna join you guys for one day to fulfill your DEI requirements.
There you go. Yeah. We'll be able to take it off our checkbox if HR ever comes to knock down
Yeah.
our door. So somebody asked, Bros or Celsius? They're completely different time horizons for me. Celsius is actually more of a trade, although I do have the 26 leaps. That's more for the fact that I just don't want to have theta decay. I honestly anticipate I'll be out of the trade of Celsius by 2025. I have a feeling that we'll see a little bit more of a run of it, and I'll probably end up taking my money and running. It's not to say that I'm bearish on Celsius. In fact, maybe what I'll end up doing, which actually would be smarter to do, is buy take my profits and then use. I'm
Man, you just buy
anticipating.
this, buy some stock, man. This the whole.
That's
I think this is a definitely like a 5 to 10 bagger eventually. You know,
Yeah, and it's kind of what I was just kind of about to say in my head. I was like, I might take, a profit at like 100%. I have to see what that kind of looks like when I do some mathematics in the back end, but I'll probably end up using 100 or the initial cost basis of that to buy the stock. And I don't know how many. I guess that would get me close to 100 shares and just hang on to it, write some covered calls over time,
Mhm.
and um, yeah, hold on to it. That's a good point. Actually, it'd be way more than 100 shares. Anyway, different story
Do
for
they
another
do
day.
Bootleg Weekly on tomorrow? Are they doing it? Maybe I'll
It's
join
just
them
once a week. Yeah, it's just
just
once a
once a
week.
week. All right.
Yeah,
So now, if they were gonna do like an episode, I'd probably join them tomorrow because you're not gonna be on. So you know,
I'm not going to be on. What do you mean?
no, you said you weren't gonna be able to do Cashflow Chronicles tomorrow, right?
No, just the Celsius in the morning.
Oh, this gotcha. Okay, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
sorry.
Got it.
Yeah, no, I'll be at the office at 7 a.m. early. So we'll have to. But they did actually ask and propose that they're like maybe once every other week we could switch to and from. So instead of doing Cashflow Chronicles, we could go do Bootleg Weekly over there and co-stream it to whatever channel we want, or they could come to Cashflow Chronicles. And
So
either
you
way,
want us to
we'll
go
figure
check
it.
their white privilege, right? That's what you want us to do.
Exactly. We need to break down the walls of
You know,
the
it's
old
like
1950s over there.
anytime they say anything, they'll be like, "You need to check your privilege. Let me just tell you how everything is gonna be. This is how we're gonna invest."
Yeah, yeah.
And then they're like, "No, I disagree with you, Kris. Sorry, you're not allowed to have an opinion, white man." They just have to sit there. That's how it works now. Sorry,
Oh
I'm not
man.
the one who built the world. You did because you have white privilege. That's how it works. Sorry.
That is. Can you
No, it's
invest?
not. You gotta push back, man. Push back. Be like, fuck
I
you,
can't.
Kris.
People that I work with watch this show now. So
Really?
the more
Just
I
say you
get,
got.
people are like, "Oh, Matt Money," and I'm like,
Just
"God,
say you
shit."
goddamn Indians. Just say you goddamn Indians
I
coming
can't,
here.
man.
You can't.
I love. I told you this the first time you and I started doing this. I said I love brown women. It wasn't wrong when I was in Trinidad, man.
I
Those
don't
are the
love
first
brown
ones I've.
women. I don't love brown women. I hate brown women. I'm just letting you know, man. I'm married to one, but I don't love brown women. You know, that love is
You're
lost.
gonna get a shoe. There's just gonna be a random shoe that just comes across the screen.
My wife is like the most whitest brown person ever. I mean, not only in like skin complexion because she's like super fucking white, but then also her like train of thought. She doesn't speak any Gujarati or Hindi at all. She's like basically a white person with like an Indian person's background. That's it. Like her parents are Indian clearly, but so like I was like, all right, I need to marry an Indian girl to fulfill my parents' requirements, but I also hate Indian girls, so I'm gonna find the one Indian girl who has basically nothing Indian about her. You know, yo, you don't know Indian girls like I do, man. Indian
You're
girls are
right.
they're horrible, bro. Horrible. They're
Yeah.
all freaking. They're all chatty all the time. They have all these expectations and blah blah blah. Like it's bad. It's bad.
I did get a good message. I won't say who from, so I'll save them. But they said, "I need a Kris appearance in whiteface. Let's make it happen."
Wait, Kris and Whiteface? I'm
Kris
not
and
doing a
whiteface.
No, I'm not gonna do no whiteface. I'm not doing a whiteface.
Oh man. But actually, this actually reminds me. I was actually talking to my buddy about this. You know, it was a great movie that would absolutely not do well today. Undercover Brother with Eddie Griffin. Did you see that movie?
Undercover Brother. Oh yeah, wait.
It has Dave
Hold on a second.
Chappelle. It has
Is
Denise
that the one
Richards.
with White She Devil? What's her
Yeah.
name?
Denise
Yes,
Richards. Yeah,
Denise
yeah,
Richards.
yeah.
Yeah.
And they give him a little like hot sauce thing in his sleeve. So if they give him any mayonnaise on a sandwich, you can spray the hot sauce.
The mayo sandwich,
Um,
the scene with the mayo sandwich, that was
Dude,
hilarious.
that movie is just out of control.
White people love mayo, apparently. I'm like, bro, I love mayo. What's wrong with mayo? I like
just
mayo.
eggs. It's just eggs, right? Like I don't know.
Well, it's
Anyway,
eggs and oil, and they just like batter it. That's about it.
exactly.
What's wrong? What's fucking wrong with mayonnaise, bro?
Did you speaking of Snowflake, you said you need to do your DD. You didn't look at the earnings at all. I'm honestly kind of curious what the heck happened.
I woke up, had a conversation like very quickly, maybe 10, 15 minutes, and then I was like, all right, let me digest all this stuff now, you know. So yeah.
I mean, I assume it's just literally this Frank, unfortunately, is leaving, and he was the one that was kind of made you very bullish on the company. I know you expressed it very, very frequently as to why you think he's a better operator than, say, Alex Karp. And I'm not trying to put you on the spot and say you're right or wrong. I think it's just unfortunate that we won't see that much longer playing out because, unfortunately, he's retiring. I don't know when he is. I'm pulling up the investor presentation right now. I'm curious to see if there's anything within it that makes it really as crazy, I think, as people might have really made it seem like, but kind of curious to see. I mean, here's just the growth over the past few years.
So Shem Pasta has a really good question. Not to interrupt, but he says people say they do DD. What constitutes as due diligence? Okay, so due diligence can come in many forms. The two main types of due diligence that I typically do is you've got short-term and you've got long-term due diligence, right? So short-term, you're trying to focus in on just how is the company performing in the short term, what's actually happening to it. You know, you're listening to a conference call for guidance for the next couple of years, couple of quarters. So a lot of the due diligence is going based on that. And then the long-term due diligence is, hey, what is this company going to look like 5 years or 10 years from now? Does it have the potential to get there? And those are things that are not going to be very clear. So right now with Celsius, the due diligence was that B of A report. How logical was that B of A report? So the short-term due diligence was, no, it's just a natural progressive slowdown. And the data that they were using was very short-term data. So the due diligence was, is this something that's happened in the past? What are the consumer trends? What are the market trends that typically happens with companies like Celsius during this time period? And then after that, you can kind of come up with a hypothesis and saying, okay, yeah, what is the long-term growth trajectory for this company? And then you do the long-term due diligence, which is how how much of a market does this company really have going forward? What are the industry trends looking like? What is this company going to look like in 2030? So can I invest in it today knowing that in 2030 it's going to give me a certain set of return? And then of course you have your valuation metrics, which, you know, like your DCFs and all the other stuff. I use DCFs a lot less these days than I used to because of just how flawed DCFs can really be. Um,
Stacking assumptions, whatever.
yeah, because you're tacking on a lot of assumptions, and the DCFs works for like a couple of years. But if you think about DCFs are like 5-year and 10-year projections, and it's like, bro, you don't fucking know, you
Yeah.
know. Otherwise, everyone in Wall Street would just use DCFs all day, every day, and that's it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So the due diligence is a combination of researching the companies, researching the executives, researching the general market, researching the competitors and how they're performing, researching what the valuations on those competitors are, you know, what's the total market potential for this thing. That's an all-encompassing piece of due diligence that you have to do. So a lot of people think it's just okay, just go to the earnings statement and look at the numbers and tell me what you think. And that's like, no, that's very short term in nature. You have to look at what the long term potential is going to be, and then base your investing decision based on that.
I think we have two really good examples. I mean, while people are trying to stack them and compare them each other, Dutch Bros and Celsius are kind of like almost the same kind of investment thesis. Celsius, you're kind of looking at Monster and saying, hey, this is the big brother. It's $50 billion. This thing's growing at a massive pace. It's starting to get really good market share. It's growing at triple digit growth, and it'll probably foresee it growing at 70% going into 24, and then maybe even going, 50 to 40% going into 25. Like, I think that this thing, which is currently at 1/5 the size of Monster, could grow into being, a 2x within a short amount of time, if not growing into 50% of the size of Monster. And here we are saying almost not the same thing about Dutch Bros and Starbucks, but it's saying, hey, these guys are opening company operated stores rather than franchise stores.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be able to get more gross profit per store location. They're, focusing more on throughput and volume versus, the large retail sort of spaces, which obviously cuts down on your net income, etc. And they're growing at a rather rapid pace. They're EBITDA positive. How far could this thing go? And you're saying, well, Starbucks is 100 billion. That's kind of the end cap. Do you think it'll get to 100? No, but it might get to 15 to 20 billion. Maybe it'll get to 30 billion. You start to say, okay, well, when is that reasonably going to get to that point? And that's when you start to think, okay, what are these guys thinking? They're thinking 4,000 stores. You're thinking $2 million a store. That's $8 billion a year in revenue. These guys can walk away with, say, 20% net income. So you're saying, okay, well, these guys are going to be walking away with $1.6 billion in 10 years, per annum, and they're at a $5 billion market cap. So, in 10 years' time, their market cap obviously has to expand rather rapidly, even at a 10 times price to earnings at that point. If they are able to achieve that sort of metric, they have to be trading at least $16 billion. They're trading at 5 right now. So you start to think about, and I know that's like really quick math, and it's the same thing I'm doing with Rocket Lab. You have a company like SpaceX, which is worth $200 billion, and you have the second most competitor, ULA, which is United Launch Alliance, and Rocket Lab, being worth single-digit billions of dollars. Well, Rocket Lab, in that respect, the second most launched vehicle, has a huge opportunity to catch up to SpaceX. Is it going to get to 200 billion? Probably not. But is a $2 billion company going to grow into a $10 billion company? Probably. And if that's the case, it's a 5x right there. So it doesn't necessarily have to be as big as SpaceX. It doesn't have to take over the space. It doesn't have to, be the number one company. A lot of these areas can have a prominent number one or number two. And if you look at it, you do your appropriate due diligence and acknowledge the risk and capital exposure, you can easily make up some good money, like Kris has been able to do so far in Celsius. And that companies go into this wave of overbought and oversold all the time, where you could literally just ride up, say a big hedge fund exits out and they owned a 5% position. Like, let's say, for example, Warren Buffett says, shit, we made all of our money on Oxy. Well, he owns 30% of the damn company. So if he just says, we're selling out, can you imagine how much downward pressure and headwind that would cause on the company's stock price? As you have to have literally 1/3 of the market cap in shares be bought up over time, it would destroy the stock price for months, which is what probably has been the largest tailwind on the stock over the past 2-3 years, is him being a large purchaser of that, and literally a third of the float being stuck because he's not selling any of it. So you literally only have 2/3 of the float available for buying and selling. So
The best way that I could encompass it, like anecdotally, would be, think of like buying a house. When you buy a house, you're gonna of course look at the price and the number of bedrooms and bathrooms, but then there's other factors you'll look at, like, okay, what does the local school district look like? Is it a good one or a bad one? If it's a good one, probably go for that, especially if you have kids. What do the property taxes look like? How are the neighbors? Just because you see online, like, oh, this is a great house, blah, 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 your neighbors could be, could be drug addicts, it could be meth heads, so this is where you have to go and actually physically look at the property. You hire an inspector sometimes, and with companies, it's like hiring a consultant, where you go in and they do a deep dive into the company's financials and figure out like whether they're not they're basically bullshitting, or if they're coming up with good stuff. Right, same thing with a house. When you try to buy a house, you get an inspector. The inspector said, hey, listen, the foundation's cracked. Whatever the cost is, it's going to cost you $100,000 to do the foundation work. Or the roof is in really bad shape, even though it looks good on the outside. On the inside, the roof has actually got massive structural issues. These are the kinds of things that aren't. That's what due diligence is, basically. So when people say, oh, I've done my DD on a company, that's what they're essentially doing. They're doing a deep dive into the company's financials, but they're also looking at some of the other facts, or at least that's part of my due diligence, where I'm looking at the company, but I'm also looking at the lens from competitors, from an industry standpoint, and then base my decision off of that. And even capital markets, like, how accessible is capital to this company? Like, what does their debt look like? So if you were to ask me, Chris, what's one of the bull cases on Celsius, I'd say that, hey, I think a lot of people are weighing it against Monster, which is good for the short term, but long term, their total addressable market is not just energy drinks. It's actually something like Coke and Pepsi, where they actually want to target a more broad appeal, you
mhm.
know? So these are the kinds of things that, like, and how close are they to doing that? I don't know, but as
It
time
said they've
goes
been
on,
rather
things will get
successful,
more.
right? I mean, when I
Yeah.
think of Monster and I think of Rockstar, I think of I do think of late night drinking sessions where people are buying up for parties to stay up late or whatever. But most of the time, I think of the construction worker. I think of the more male dominated industries that are outside and more laborious, where they need that extra kind of like umph, to kind of keep their bodies kind of going to the weekend. That's what I think of like a Monster versus a Celsius. I'm seeing, like we've always talked about, right? I mean, the Celsius Daily of more of the fitness, the nurse, the people that are more a little bit more conscious, and they obviously are looking at some of the vitamins and other kind of things that they put within there that are a little bit less maybe stressful. Yes, there is sucralose, and I'm sure that there'll be a problem with that, in the future, of people kind of pushing back on the fact that they're sucralose. And I'm curious to see what they do with their stevia brand and how much they kind of uh, try to push that as well. But these guys are already expanding into the actual energy drink market. These 200 milligram ones that we're used to drinking aren't necessarily the energy drink performance market. These are more of like your just everyday usage kind of thing. And so I'm curious to see where they end up, and developing other sorts of avenues for continued growth.
Yeah. I think we could end it here today. One
Yeah.
last thing. Someone said, is Celsius a buyout candidate? Maybe. I don't know. Pepsi does own a stake in them, so maybe Pepsi makes a buyout offer. But it's definitely going to be a huge premium over today's share price, if that's the case. But I doubt that. They do a buyout. But
be
then
tough.
again, you never know. It'd be tough. Yeah, it'd be a
Yeah,
lot of money for Pepsi to shell out to get the deal done. So, and I'm sure
yeah.
that there was probably offers back in the day. So we'll see.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see, especially once you start getting the 1Q numbers of what happens in Ireland and a lot of those places. I anticipate you're going to see 100% year-over-year growths because they don't have a lot of international revenue. So curious to see
Yeah.
what ends up happening. But I agree. I think we've covered a lot. I'm personally going to look a little bit more into Snowflake and see what's going on there. We don't have to touch on it. The 131% net revenue retention is way better than what we see at Palantir. So that'll be stuff that I definitely look into. I'm curious to see if there's actually merit to the company decreasing as much, or if it's really just Frank.
Yeah.
But really looking forward to talking with you about the earnings call tomorrow. Hopefully, you guys don't spoil it too much on FJ.
Yeah.
But it'll be fun. I'll definitely be checking that on Twitter after I get out of my conference in the morning.
Okay. Sounds good,
Yeah.
man.
You guys
All right.
rock. Get some sleep, my guy.
Take care. Have a good one, guys.
Cheers, all.